Do you want to help solve a cold case? If you do, we have some exciting news. We're teaming up with a very well-known DNA and genetic genealogy company to solve a cold case. In a few weeks, we'll release a video with more details about the case we'll help solve. We'll be doing this through YouTube memberships. Half the money we receive will go to funding DNA testing and genetic genealogy, which will hopefully help solve the cold case. We have 2 membership levels, and both will help solve the cold case. But you'll also get more perks with your membership. With our lowest membership, you'll get loyalty badges, exclusive emojis, early access to videos, and a 15% discount on merchandise. With a higher membership, you'll get all those perks, plus an extra 10% off merch, an exclusive members-only video every month, and you'll be able to vote on the video's topic. But we think the most important aspect of the membership is to help solve the cold case. Once the case is solved, we'll do a video about it, and, with your permission, we'll have your name or username appear in the credits. This is your chance to change from a passive observer to an active participant in solving a murder. With your help, we hope to bring a killer to justice and give a family some closure. Not only will you help solve a cold case, but you'll also be supporting this channel as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please keep an eye out for a video about what crime will help solve. In the meantime, if you're interested in membership, please sign up so you can get early access to videos, the exclusive members-only videos, and other perks. Once again, thanks for watching. Number 3. Richard Williams and Carl Sweikert. Patrick Newell, who went by his middle name, Michael, lived in Vineland, New Jersey. He had 3 brothers and 3 sisters. He liked studying history, antiques, camping, and music. He was environmentally friendly and rode his bike to his job at a glass company. He was a handyman at the company. He planned to enlist in the Navy. Newell was a quiet boy who had a few friends. Some people thought that his quiet demeanor was creepy. He also had some unusual interests. He was fascinated with black magic and the occult. He didn't drink much alcohol or smoke cigarettes, but he dabbled with drugs like marijuana and LSD. He also had some trouble with the law. When he was 16, he was arrested after he robbed 5 houses and a gas station. He was given a 6-month suspended sentence. On June 15, 1971, 20-year-old Michael Newell attended a pre-graduation party with friends from high school. Newell had graduated a year earlier, but he had several younger friends who were graduating that year. Newell did not return home that night or the next few days. His mother did not report him missing because she assumed he was camping. It was common for him to go on camping trips without telling her. On June 18, 1971, 3 days after the party, the body of 20-year-old Michael Newell was found floating in a pond close to Millville, New Jersey. Newell's wrists and ankles were bound with tape. The cause of death was drowning. The pathologist was a bit confused by the death. It appeared that Newell had been murdered because he had been bound, but there was no evidence he put up any struggle, which is unusual for an active young man. Newell had 2 best friends, 18-year-old Richard Williams and 17-year-old Carl Sweikert. Newell's mother said that the 3 young men were inseparable. But what was odd was that Williams and Sweikert left for a trip to Florida the day after the party, where Newell was last seen alive. They returned home the day after the body was found. Williams and Sweikert were questioned, and they had a bizarre story. They said that Newell wanted to die a violent death because, in the afterlife, he would be put in charge of 40 leagues of demons. Some news accounts say that he thought he was going to be in charge of a league of 40 demons. Nevertheless, they left the party and went to the pond. Newell performed a satanic ritual. Then they bound his wrists and ankles with tape. Then Williams and Sweikert dropped Newell 25 feet into the pond. When they saw bubbles reach the surface, they left. It appeared that Newell had been planning this for some time. He had taken out a $4,000 life insurance policy on himself, and Williams and Sweikert were the beneficiaries. Williams and Sweikert said that Williams told them the money was to pay them for killing him. Accounting for inflation in 2024, $4,000 is about $31,000. Williams and Sweikert said that they were not Satanists, they were just trying to help their friend. The two men were arrested and charged with murder. They were looking at the death penalty. In October 1971, Richard Williams and Carl Sweikert pleaded guilty to murder. Since they pleaded guilty, the death penalty was taken off the table. But they were still looking at life in prison. A month later, they were sentenced to 10 years in reformatory for people between the ages of 18 and 30. Number 2. Moises Meraz-Espinoza. On February 4, 2011, 19-year-old Moises Meraz-Espinoza, who lived in Huntington Park, California, called his cousin and asked for a ride. She arrived at his apartment building and he was waiting outside. Meraz-Espinoza's cousin asked about his mother. For the past year, Meraz-Espinoza and his mother, 42-year-old Amelia Espinoza, had been arguing about the rules of the home. Meraz-Espinoza had been acting out. He started reading the Satanic Bible and got 666 tattooed behind one of his ears. He watched ultra-violent horror movies and listened to extreme music like death metal and gore grind. His mother did not like his music and often complained about it. Meraz-Espinoza's cousin noticed that he was acting strangely. She asked him what was going on. He told her that 2 days earlier he had strangled his 42-year-old mother to death, skinned her, filleted her, and dismembered her. Her skin and muscle were in the freezer. Her bones were in his backpack. He explained he had cut up the body with a circular saw, and no one heard anything because he had played his music loudly. He said he felt like he was at peace, quote, like an angel, unquote. Meraz-Espinoza's cousin drove him to the police station and he turned himself in. The police went to his home and found human remains in the freezer. The shower walls were covered with plastic sheets. In the shower was a circular saw and a knife. The police also found pieces of skin and bone in the shower. In the backpack, they found bones. All the skin on the skull, except for the eyelids, had been removed in one piece. Her eyes and teeth had been removed. 2 inverted crosses had been carved into the skull. None of the internal organs were ever found. Forensic experts were called in. A lot of time when a body is dismembered, it's to hide the identity of the victim. But this went way beyond normal dismemberment. Because Meraz-Espinoza was fascinated with Satanism, the police decided to consult an expert in Satanism. The expert was sure that was a ritualistic murder. One thing he noted was that the murder was committed on February 2nd. For some Satanists, that is a holiday for sexual and blood rituals, including human and animal sacrifices. In June 2013, Moises Meraz-Espinoza went to trial for the murder of his 42-year-old mother, Amelia Espinoza. His lawyer argued that the murder was not premeditated. Around the time of the murder, Meraz-Espinoza was depressed because his girlfriend had recently died after she was hit by a car. Meraz-Espinoza and his mother had a contentious relationship, which is not unusual for teenagers and their parents. He was in a bad headspace that he snapped and killed his mother. Meraz-Espinoza's lawyer said there was no premeditation in the murder, so therefore he couldn't be found guilty of first-degree murder. He also said that the skinning and dismemberment were expertly done. He contended that Meraz-Espinoza, who had no criminal record, could not have done this alone. The prosecution said that there was no evidence that anyone else was involved in the murder and the dismemberment. Also, Meraz-Espinoza confessed to his cousin that he had killed, dismembered, filleted, and skinned his mother. He also turned himself in. The prosecution contended that Meraz-Espinoza murdered his mother in a satanic ritual. The prosecution had an expert in Satanism testify. They said, quote, "In this case, the body was dismembered, filleted, eviscerated, decapitated, and desanguinated, and the skin from the face, scalp, and head were removed in one piece. The teeth, fingers, toes, and eyes were removed, and several internal organs were absent. This is really the very definition of a ritual killing, the fact that all these things were done. In ritualistic crimes, acts of mutilation, evisceration, and the disposal and positioning of the bodies holds magical meaning to the offender, and it's usually a necessary function of the ritual. In other words, it's not done to avoid. It's not a counter-forensic measure to try to avoid detection. It's done in terms of magic. Magical meaning, whether it's going to benefit you, is a form of worship," unquote. Meraz-Espinoza's lawyer pointed out that the modern Church of Satan does not believe or condone human sacrifices. So how could it be a satanic ritual if that type of ritual does not align with the Church's tenets? The jury deliberated for a day. They found 21-year-old Moises Meraz-Espinoza guilty of first-degree murder. A month later, at his sentencing hearing, the judge said it was one of the most disturbing cases he had ever presided over. Meraz-Espinoza was sentenced to 25 years to life. At the time of this recording, 32-year-old Moises Meraz-Espinoza is serving his sentence at the Salinas Valley State Prison in Soledad, California. He's eligible for parole in December 2029 when he'll be 37 years old. Number 1. Manuela and Daniel Ruda. Manuela and Daniel Ruda lived in Bochum, Germany's 16th most populous city. In 2001, about 390,000 people lived in the city. Daniel worked at an auto parts store and Manuela was a waitress. They found each other after Manuela responded to a personal ad in a heavy metal magazine placed by Daniel. It reads, quote, "Raven Black Vampire seeks Princess of Darkness who hates everybody and everything," unquote. Manuela came from a middle-class family and attended a school for students who wanted to go on to university. She said when she was 14, the devil first contacted her. In 1997, at age 16, she dropped out of school and moved to the Scottish Highlands, where she worked in a hotel. While in Scotland, she first started visiting cemeteries and realized she liked the atmosphere. After several months, she moved to London, where she got a job at a goth club. She fell into the goth culture and became friends with a group of people who threw parties where they drank human blood. She said she learned how to drink blood from someone's neck without cutting an artery so they wouldn't die. She met men and exchanged sex for letting her drink from their necks. After moving back to Witten, Germany, Manuela had her canines extracted and had animal fangs implanted in their place. She also got an inverted cross tattooed on her head. She stopped going out in the day and sometimes slept in a coffin. Together, Daniel and Manuela drank blood. They also dug up graves. Manuela said that one time she was buried alive because she wanted to see what it was like. The pair fantasized about committing mass murders. Daniel wanted to be like Charles Manson, whose cult killed 7 people in 2 violent home invasions in California in August 1969. Then, one day in 2001, Daniel said he received an order from Satan. Satan wanted a human sacrifice. Then Daniel got a vision of the numbers 6667. He interpreted it to mean that they should get married on June 6, 2001, which is the 6th day of the 6th month, and then murder someone and then kill themselves on July 6, 2001, which is the 6th day of the 7th month. They got married on June 6, 2001. Afterward, they had sex in the oak coffin that Manuela sometimes slept in. On July 9, 2001, Manuela's mother went to the police. She received a disturbing letter from her daughter. Manuela wrote that she may not be alive when her mother reads the letter. She also wrote, quote, "I am not of this world. I must liberate my soul from the mortal flesh," unquote. The police went to the couple's flat and broke down the door. On the living room floor, they found a decomposing body. It was lying under a banner that reads, quote, "When Satan lives," unquote. The face was unrecognizable. It was later determined to be the body of 33-year-old Frank Hackert. Hackert worked at the auto parts store with Daniel. He had been struck with a hammer and stabbed 66 times with a knife, a carpet cutter, and a machete. A scalpel was embedded in his chest. The scalpel had been used to carve a pentagram into his torso. On July 12, 2001, Manuela and Daniel were arrested near Jena, Germany, which is about 230 miles east of Bochum. They had a chainsaw in their car. The couple confessed to the murder. They lured Hackert to their home by telling him they were having a party. After the murder, they drank his blood and had sex in the coffin. Then they went on the run. After killing Hackert, they had planned to kill themselves, but they never went through with it. Daniel said he bought the chainsaw because he wanted to have a weapon in case Satan gave him another order. 26-year-old Daniel and 23-year-old Manuela Ruda went to trial in December 2001. Before the trial, Manuela's lawyers asked the judge to black out the windows in the courtroom because sunlight hurt Manuela's eyes. The request was denied. However, she was allowed to wear sunglasses during the trial. Although they had confessed to the murders, Daniel and Manuela claimed they were not guilty because they were following the orders of Satan. During the trial, they made many bizarre statements. Manuela claimed, quote, "I signed my soul to Satan 2.5 years ago," unquote. They believed that when they killed Hackert, they helped him because he was now, quote, "beside Satan, the best place he could be," unquote. They also didn't feel responsible for the murder. Daniel said, quote, "I got the order to sacrifice a human for Satan," unquote. Manuela said, quote, "It's not murder. We are not murderers. It was the execution of an order. Satan ordered us to. We had to comply. It was not something bad. It simply had to be," unquote. Manuela talked about how they killed Hackert, saying, quote, "Daniel struck him on the head twice with a hammer, but he suddenly stood up again and walked towards the television. Then my knife started to glow, and I heard the command to stab him in the heart," unquote. They never showed remorse for anything they did. Daniel said, quote, "If I kill a person with a car and half his bleeding head is hanging on the radiator grill, the car is not put on trial. The driver is the bad one. I have no reason to regret anything because I have not done anything," unquote. Manuela said that they picked 33-year-old Frank Hackert because they thought he was funny and he would make a good court jester for Satan. Manuela and Daniel's lawyers asked for leniency because they were mentally ill. After a month-long trial, both Manuela and Daniel were found guilty of murder. Daniel was sentenced to 15 years in a secure psychiatric hospital, and Manuela had to serve at least 13 years in the hospital. It would be up to the doctors if they were released after their sentences were finished. Daniel would have finished his sentence in 2016, and Manuela would have finished her sentence in 2014. The current whereabouts of Daniel and Manuela Ruda are unknown. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. If you did find it interesting, please make sure you subscribe. We'll have a new video about the paranormal every week. If you just discovered this channel, please make sure you check out our other channel, Criminally Listed. We have over 325 videos featuring bizarre but true crime stories. You can find it at youtube.com/criminallylisted. We also have a podcast about cold cases that were eventually solved called Criminally Listed Presents Into the Killing. You can find it on Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, and anywhere you find great podcasts. But that's all for today. Thanks again for watching.